Well, hey there, everyone. If you're watching this as a replay, you want to skip ahead just a little bit as we get everything all set up here for this live show talking about Tennessee and their bowl destination. Sudden change, a little bit of a change here for Tennessee. I was just on here. Y'all obviously talk with me if you're watching this now. We're live talking about Tennessee going to the Music City Bowl. That is no longer the case. Tennessee now going to the TaxSlayer Bowl down in Jacksonville. Hey, I was wrong. I'll kind of go into the spiel here in a second, apologizing and stuff about being wrong and everything. But Tennessee no longer going to the Music City Bowl. They will in fact be going to the TaxSlayer Bowl down in Jacksonville, and they'll be taking on Indiana Hoosiers on January 2nd. The kickoff is 7 o'clock Eastern, I believe. 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern for that game, I believe, is when you could expect to see the Vols in that one. This was just a mess. This is pretty crazy. Vols no longer in the Music City Bowl. Share your thoughts on it. What do you think about the change? Were you happy with the change? Are you happy that Tennessee is not going to be in Music City Bowl? And I'll kind of go into details about how that kind of all played out, I guess, because it does seem like from what other reports happened for Brett McMurphy and everything, um, that it was about to happen. That Tennessee was going to go to Music City Bowl, but then things changed. Now Tennessee, it was officially announced by the Louisville Twitter account that it is going to be Louisville and Mississippi State. So, whew. All right, let me sorry, someone on Twitter saying they were dumb to listen to reports and got Belk Bowl tickets, and then 2 hours later we're in the Gator. So it's been a mess. It's been an absolute mess. All right. Yeah, Perry L, you're right. Perry L, I gotta eat some crow on this. You were absolutely right on that one. It was happening. It was changing as we were doing this show live. So all right, a few things here. If y'all want to give this video a like, I'd appreciate that very much. That'd be awesome. And subscribe to the channel, that'd be even better. You guys are fantastic. All of you who do tune in live to all the reaction shows and stuff that we do. Thank you so much. I am Nathaniel Rutherford, managing editor of RockyTopInsider.com. Let's talk about it here. Jordan Higgins saying, too bad Penix is hurt. Would have been an interesting storyline. Like the bowl, wish the opponent was a little better. I agree. The quarterback for Indiana, you're talking about, Michael Penix, at one point was committed to Tennessee. He is hurt. He's out for the rest of the season, unfortunately for him. And for Tennessee, like you said, I think it'd be a cool storyline. Indiana's 8-4 on the year. They are 5-4 in the Big Ten. Peyton Ramsey is the quarterback who has filled in for Michael Penix Jr. Here in the last few weeks. 13 touchdowns, 4 picks for him, so not a bad stat line for him, all things considered. He also run the ball for almost 200 yards on 80 carries and 6 touchdowns. So not averaging a whole lot yards per carry, but he can get some things done on the ground as well. Their defense, I'm going to have to go look and see more about it. I'll have a piece on RockyTopInsider.com called 5 things about the opponent and whatnot. Looking at it, but they seem like they got blasted by Ohio State 51-10. They lost to Michigan State, a kind of mediocre Michigan State team, 40-31. They lost 34-27 to Penn State, and they lost 39-14 to Michigan. So they actually lost to every ranked team that they played this season. I don't know what their most impressive victory would be, because Michigan State ended up being 6-6. Rutgers was horrible. Maryland ended up 3-9, so that's not an impressive victory. UConn ended up 2-10, not an impressive victory. Nebraska 5-7, not an impressive victory. Northwestern 3-9, not even an impressive victory. Purdue 4. All their wins have been, oh my God, all of Indiana's wins have been against teams that finished the season below 500. Every single team they beat this season does not have a winning record. Oh my goodness. This should be an easy easy victory for Tennessee in this game. I think the Louisville matchup would have been a much more intriguing matchup for Tennessee because Louisville has a dynamic offense and a no, not so good defense. So I think it'd have been interesting. Oh man, Indiana seems awful for an 8-4 team. This if Tennessee doesn't win this game by a couple scores, that would be astounding to me, honestly. A couple of comments here from you guys on the chat. AUGMC is saying he's hyped and just bought their tickets here. Chris Compton saying, so the story Floor made the SEC change the game as a Matt Jones suggests. I think, okay, let me get into the story here. It seems like it was actually initially was going to be Tennessee in the Music City Bowl. That was actually supposed to be happening. I mean, Brett McMurphy ran with it. I saw a few other people run with it as well. That's why I published it on RockyTopInsider.com saying Tennessee's going to the Music City Bowl. It was reported. If Brett McMurphy has it, it's usually accurate info. He is a legitimate reporter. He has really good info. So I think at one point it was going to be Tennessee in the Music City Bowl. But then the change, and as you're alluding to there, Matt Jones make it sound like Fulmer doing these backdoor dealings. I don't know if that was the case or not. I do think Tennessee, obviously officials, they wanted the Gator Bowl and they pushed back against it. And that's why you never saw an official announcement from Tennessee up until I guess like half an hour ago maybe at the latest at this point was as we're doing this show right now. So I think it was going to be Tennessee in the Music City Bowl. I don't think that was like a misreport. I think that was what it was slated to be. That was what was going to happen, and then Tennessee fought back against it. So that's we'll see. We'll see if we ever hear anything else about that come out. But that's my take on it. That's how it looks like from what I've seen and what I've heard has happened. But yeah, I am happy that it's a night game. This game is going to be on January 2nd at 7 o'clock at night. So it's a better time slot for Tennessee. It's a better potential for a victory for Tennessee in this game as well. Perry Ellis says, like the opponent will help us keep our momentum and work towards getting it to the 9-win count next year. Yeah, good point. Chris Compton, I prefer playing slow white teams. Yeah, that'll be, again, this will be Tennessee, the fourth straight bowl game they've played a Big Ten team. Yeah, because it would be the fourth straight bowl game they played a Big Ten team, and we saw how the first three went. Og MC says Virginia Tech would have been an interesting matchup in the Milk Bowl, but yeah, I agree that would have been interesting as well. Jeremy Epperson, I have 2 tickets for sale for the Music City Bowl. Ooh, yikes. I feel bad for everyone who bought Music City Bowl tickets right off the bat. My advice to you for next year, obviously I will be doing a better job next year, assuming Tennessee gets the bowl game, which they should. I'll do a better job next year waiting until Tennessee, obviously makes it official with their Twitter account and the actual official bowl accounts and things like that before I hit publish on the article. But also for my advice to you guys, well, for one, keep us accountable in media. Keep me and keep other guys, other women, other people in sports media accountable. Don't let us rest on our laurels. Don't assume everything we say is right. Everything we are getting from other people is right. I should do that too to guys like Brett McMurphy and other people who are more national reporters and whatnot. I should be more, keep them accountable. But yeah, so for you, Jeremy, and for everyone else for next year, my lesson to you or my message to you guys would be wait until Tennessee announces it before you go buy tickets. That'd be my thing. Like I said, I made a mistake in running with the report. I wasn't the only one. I'm not going to call anybody else out. That's my own mistake. I'm not going to say and try to throw anybody else on their bus. My mistake on reporting that, and I apologize. I'll own it, but we'll see how everyone else reacts who did the same thing. But yeah, so a couple more comments from you guys here. Perry L saying, "Does this mean we can't rely on his report of Pittman, Arkansas?" I don't know. I mean, like I said, Brett Murphy's usually pretty spot on. He doesn't have a lot of bad info usually. So, and he's saying he's not saying that Pittman is going to Arkansas. He's just saying that he's emerged as a legitimate candidate. Maybe I think the words maybe he used front runner. I don't know, but yeah, I wouldn't say that you can't believe his report. I just take it with a grain of salt. Take most reports with a grain of salt up until they obviously get announced by the university. Can't wait for Jeremy Pruitt to his interview at 6:15 to make it sound like Indiana is a good team. Whew. They're not a good team. I don't care what you say. I don't care what anyone says. they're not a good team. I just ugh. Just looking at their okay, let's look at their numbers. Let's look at Indiana's numbers because I don't they're not a good team. Hold on, I'm trying to get to some reaction stuff here on Twitter from people commenting on stuff. Kentucky fans are losing you right now, which is fantastic. I will say, I'm sure all fans are enjoying the fact that Kentucky is getting beaten by Tennessee again in something. Yeah, Jeremy Pruitt will be on ESPN2 at 6:15 Eastern. So if you want to watch that, if you all weren't aware of that, Jeremy Pruitt will be on ESPN2 at 6:15 Eastern to talk about the bowl game, to talk about the bowl matchup. Last time Tennessee was in Jacksonville for a bowl game in the TaxSlayer Bowl, they won handily 45-28 against Iowa. If you remember that game, that was the dumbest play I've ever seen in a football game, where that Iowa player, for some reason, tiptoed to the sideline and then threw the football back out onto the field of play instead of letting it go out of bounds on the kickoff. That was, to this day, probably the dumbest football play I have ever seen. And that's saying something. I've seen a lot of pretty stupid plays in football. We've all seen a lot of stupid plays in football. So that was pretty bad. So I'm going to put a link saying Indiana does not look like a good team. Let's see. Score prediction. I'll have to hold off on that just for now, but I feel pretty safe in saying Tennessee wins this game. I feel pretty safe in saying that. I will say that. I don't feel like I would be kind of shocked at this point, honestly, if Tennessee doesn't win this game, just based off looking at the stats right now, looking at the way Indiana's team is constructed. They don't impress me. Like I said, all of their wins have been against teams with losing records. They've lost to all the good teams they played, and Michigan State's not even a good team, and they lost to them, and it wasn't even particularly close, I don't think. Was that game? I don't know. What was the score of that game? Let me find it. 40-31. So never mind. It was close, but 40 points to Michigan State. Michigan State did not have a good offense this year. Yeah, Michigan State averaged 22 points per game, and Indiana gave up 40 to them. So, ugh. Anyway, so let's see where they kind of rank in different stuff. Scoring offense-wise, Indiana right in the middle of the Big Ten. They're sixth with 32.6 points per game. Scoring defense, they're ninth in the Big Ten at 24.5. Total offense, they are second actually in the Big Ten in total offense, 443 yards per game. Total defense, they are ninth. So not a great defense. Looks like on paper a good offense, but as I just said earlier to you guys, they have not played good teams. They have not played a very good schedule. Their wins this season have been against a 34-24 victory over a 5-7 Ball State team. They beat Eastern Illinois, who's an FCS program, and I don't know what Eastern Illinois' record was. Eastern Illinois was 1-11. They won that game 52-0. They should have. They lost to Ohio State 51-10. They beat a 2-10 UConn team 38-3. They lost 40-31 to a 6-6 Michigan State team. They beat a 2-10 Rutgers team 35-0. They beat a 3-9 Maryland team 34-28. They beat a 5-7 Nebraska team 38-31. They beat a 3-9 Northwestern team at 34-3, lost to Penn State 34-27, lost to Michigan 39-14, and then beat a 4-8 Purdue team in double overtime 44-41. They're not good. I know the stats are going to say what the offense stuff what it looks like. Maybe they have some decent offense and whatnot, but they're not good, guys. This is not a good team. Let's see. Chris Compton says UK was probably Music City bound, if not for Louisville. Yeah, I agree. They didn't want to see that rematch. Good for UT for putting them in their place. Joshua Barnes, how does that affect recruiting? Because if we were in Music City Bowl, a lot of in-state 2021 recruits could be at the game. That is interesting to me, too. I I think you'll still be able to get recruits to go to the game, to get I'm not sure what the rules are about visiting for bowl games. So I'll have to brush up on that and get refreshed on that, because it's been a couple years. It's been 3 years since he's been to a bowl game, so it's been 3 years since I had to worry about it. And back in 2016, when that last happened, I wasn't covering recruiting as much as I am now. It wasn't on the forefront of our coverage here at RTI like it is now. So I don't know. Back then I wasn't as aware of it. So I'll have to check and see about that. Let's see. Zach Van Meter, Michigan State scored in 40 is more than enough to go off of Tennessee by 100. Do you think we can still get them to come to Jacksonville? We'll talk about the recruits. Like I said, assuming they can all visit, I think you'll still be able to get the recruits to come to Jacksonville. Tennessee is targeting guys in Florida as well, so I think getting them to come visit for that game will be pretty easy as well. OgMC said they'll play their hardest against us. They will, but I don't know if their hardest will do a whole lot. Gator Bowl is prime time on ESPN with no other games playing. A good recruiting game for Tennessee. All eyeballs on us. That is a good point. As long as Tennessee doesn't come out and do what Georgia did and lay an egg, and don't think they will, because like I said, I just don't think Indiana's very good. The teams they've beaten are combined it's the same thing with UAB. UAB I think was a decent team. I think Indiana is a decent team, but UAB up until the point they played Tennessee, all their wins have been against pretty awful teams. That Tennessee handled them. It was 30-7 that game, the final score, I think. I think Indiana's offense obviously is a lot better than UAB's offense. It's kind of it's a role reversal here. UAB had a good defense and not a great offense. Indiana has a good offense, not a great defense. So I think it'll be higher scoring, but at the same time, like I said, UAB, good team, but they had not really beaten anyone before they played Tennessee. Indiana, not a bad team, but they haven't beaten anybody. I mean, they legitimately, their best victory is against a 5-7 Nebraska team. So, I guess it's part of their best victory. I don't really know what else it would be the best victory would be on their schedule. I mean, you could also, same time though, you could argue Tennessee's best victory. The 7-5 Kentucky team. I think that's a good team. I think Kentucky's a good team. They're a solid team. But also, you look at Tennessee's schedule, and who do they beat besides that? A 6-6 Missouri squad that's not going bowling, a 4-8 South Carolina team, a 3-9 Vanderbilt team, and then and not a bad UAB team that they did just get trounced by FAU in Lane Kiffin's last game with the Owls in the championship game for their Conference USA. So it's not like Tennessee's beaten a whole lot of juggernauts either, but Tennessee has, I think, been tested against better teams than what Indiana has, and maybe that's an SEC bias. I don't know, but we'll see. Chris Compton, it's going to be like Iowa and Northwestern. Our athletes will overwhelm them. I agree with you there. I do wish Michael Penix Jr. was still playing for Indiana, because I think he's a good player. I think he's it'd be an interesting storyline to follow as well. I will say though, Peyton Ramsey, their quarterback, who has filled in for Penix, and actually he maybe even started at the beginning of the year and then lost a starting job to Penix. He's played well down the stretch. He was 31 of 41 for 371 and a touchdown against Penn State. He was 17 of 29 for 217 and a pick against Michigan. And against Purdue, again, Purdue wasn't as good this year. 23 of 39, 337 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he's thrown for over 300 yards in 2 of his last 3 games. He's actually thrown for over 300 yards 4 times this season, and I think 4 of his last 5 games. 3 times this season, excuse me. I think 3 of the last 5 games he's played in, he's thrown for over 300 yards. But again, that's against Nebraska. Penn State's legit, and against Purdue, and it took 2 overtimes to get to that 300-yard mark against Purdue as well. So he's not a bad threat on the ground. 80 carries, 198 yards, 6 touchdowns. So he can score. He doesn't usually chew up a bunch of yards on the ground. He's not like a Lamar Jackson. I don't know why that's the first thing that popped in my head, but he's not like Louisville's quarterback, actually, to use an example. That guy that Tennessee was, Cunningham, who they could potentially have faced against Louisville. He was a legit dual threat guy who had like 500 yards rushing, and I think like 8 touchdowns as well. Was averaging about 4-something yards per carry. So he was a legit dual threat. This guy, he can move. He kind of, I guess, maybe like a Brian Maurer, where he can move. He's not going to probably pick up 30 yards, or like what Josh Dobbs could do. He's not going to pick up 20, 30 yards on a run, but he could do enough to damage you and do enough to to hurt you if you're not careful. So Tennessee versus Indiana in the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl. Last time Tennessee played Indiana in football was 19. Can you guess the year? 19. I'm not gonna wait and sit for y'all to sit here and try to guess. 1987, or I guess technically 1988, but it's after the 1987 team, or 1987 season. Excuse me. You got it right. You got it right, Jordan. It was 1988. It was in the Peach Bowl. Tennessee won 27-23. So it's been a long time since the two teams have played. I wasn't alive last time these two teams played. Let's get to some comments from you guys here in the chat. Joshua Barnes, they did give Penn State a good game. Yes, they did. When will JG have to announce he's transferring if he does? Well, Chris, I don't think JG is going to announce that he's transferring, but he doesn't have a certain time frame that he has to announce it by if he does. We were reported, not we reported, but it was reported by David Ubben of The Athletic. I think it was like Monday or Tuesday this past week. It was this past week that sources indicated to The Athletic that JG is not going to transfer. The only decision he has to make this offseason is whether or not he wants to try and test the NFL waters, which I don't think he will. So I think he's going to be back next year. But if he does decide to transfer, he doesn't have a set deadline. He can transfer kind of whenever. It can be now. It can be after the bowl game. It can be in spring practices. It can be after spring practices. So it can kind of be whenever. He doesn't have a set time for when he has to announce when he's going to. It can be anytime between now and the summer even. He can decide over the summer when he wants to. So his family likes Schiano. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he'll go up to Rutgers. I would be surprised if that happened. Does JG really think he's a draft prospect? He should. I wouldn't want him on the roster if I was Tennessee. If he doesn't think he's a draft prospect. If you're a quarterback and you don't think you can make it in the NFL, what are you doing playing, man? If I'm Jeremy Pruitt, I don't want a guy on my roster who doesn't think he's an NFL prospect. So I hope he does. I think at least, I don't think he is right now. I think he can at least get, hear feedback from them. He can get feedback from the NFL and some scouts and stuff and kind of hear grades and kind of hear, this is what you need to improve. This is what you need to do. This is what we need to see from you. I don't think he's an NFL prospect right now. But I think he needs to think like that. If he doesn't think he is, if he has an opinion of, I'm not a draft prospect, he needs to reconsider. First of all, thank you all for tuning in. I'll answer some more questions here in a second, but I want to say, if you give this video a like, that'd be great. If you want to subscribe to our channel, that'd also be awesome. Thank you all so much for asking the questions, for commenting, and for watching this so far. You guys are great. I am Nathaniel Rutherford, the managing editor of RocketTopInsider.com. We're on here on YouTube. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as well. Is Harrison Bailey an early enrollee? Would be huge for him to get in the bowl practices. He is an early enrollee. Harrison Bailey is an early enrollee. I'm trying to remember who all is an early enrollee right now. That hasn't been all announced. We talked about on the last RTI and VR2 recruiting podcast, which you can actually view on here on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to us on Apple Podcast, or if you have an Android device where you haven't subscribed to our podcast that way, you can check out the video audio of it here on YouTube. We talked about all the guys who are signing early, or most likely going to be signing early in the early signing period that starts on December 18th. But I don't know if it's all been finalized of who all is going to be an early enrollee, because just because you sign early doesn't mean that you are enrolling early. So I do think, though, that Harrison Bailey is an early enrollee, but I don't know if all the other guys like Jalen Hyatt or Cooper Mays or Keyshawn Lawrence or these other guys who are signing early, I don't know if they're all going to enroll early or not. I think Keyshawn is. Don't hold me to that, but I think Keyshawn Lawrence is also an early enrollee. Currently Tennessee's highest rated commitment in this 2020 class as well. Let's see. JG won't transfer. Joshua Barnes, I hope we get big Amari Thomas tomorrow morning. I'm going to go ahead and say we get him. I feel like Tennessee will get him too. At the same time, it wouldn't surprise me, I guess, if he went somewhere else, but I do think Tennessee has all the momentum there right now. If you want to watch that announcement live, I just mentioned the RTI and VR2 recruiting podcast. VR2 will have a couple guys down, over at Briarcrest Christian to do that live. I guess they'll probably be on Periscope, but they'll be there live for that announcement. So it'll be 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern, 10 o'clock a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern. So if you live in the Central Time Zone, it'll be at 10 o'clock for you. If you live in Eastern here in Knoxville or on the Eastern, side of the U.S. here, it'll be at 11 o'clock for you. So 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central Time is when Omari Thomas is going to be announcing. Jabari Small is not announcing at that time. I don't think we know when Jabari Small is supposed to be making an announcement. His teammate and running back over at Briarcrest. So we'll see if we hear anything about that from him. But I don't know when he's supposed to be making an announcement. Let's see. Marcus Winkler, would the Florida Bowl game have a positive effect on recruiting? Yes. I don't know what bowl game would have a negative effect on recruiting for Tennessee at this point. It didn't matter if they got into, even if they went to like the Independence Bowl down in Shreveport. That would be a positive effect for Tennessee because you'd be in Louisiana, and Tennessee has a few Louisiana prospects that they're targeting. If they go to the Birmingham Bowl, Tennessee has a few Alabama prospects they're targeting. So I don't know that you could have had, for Tennessee in this spot right now, especially after missing out on bowl games for the past couple of years, I don't know that there could have been a bad bowl destination for Tennessee this year. Maybe next year, a couple years from now. Obviously, look at the Tennessee after the 2016 season. The Music City Bowl, Denver, Tennessee wasn't a great bowl destination because they were expected to do a lot more. They were kind of considered a dark horse for the playoff that year. They were slated to go to the Sugar Bowl up until they lost to Vanderbilt in the last game of the season. So the Music City Bowl that year was a disappointment. I don't think any bowl game this year was going to be a disappointment or is going to hurt recruiting for Tennessee. To me, the Gator Bowl it's good. Like I said earlier, you can get some guys Tennessee's targeting in Florida to come visit. I think other guys, like I said, I assume recruits can come visit. I'll have to double check on that. But I think they can go visit in the bowl game. It's like I said, it's been a while since we've had to worry about that here in Tennessee. So I will have to double check for you on there. Any other questions for you guys, or from you guys, I guess, before I end this show, move on and go do some stuff to write some articles here about the 5 things you need to know about the Indiana Hoosiers? Anything else y'all want to discuss here about the opponent, about the bowl game, about recruiting? I'll kind of hang around here for a couple more minutes. And like I said, Jeremy Pruitt will be talking on ESPN2 at 6:15 Eastern time. So here in about 45 minutes or so, he'll be talking on ESPN2 about the bowl game, about his team. I don't know how long he'll be on there. I don't know, what all that situation is. I don't know if he's meeting locally with the media in Knoxville. I'm not really sure, but he'll be on ESPN2. Troy Lee Nugent, that was weird. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Mr. Bowman said, who is the top prospect that we need? Top prospect that Tennessee needs. If you're wanting to talk about recruiting rankings and where it would put Tennessee's class, that would be 5-star tight end Darnell Washington. But I think top guys they need in this class, any of the defensive linemen they're on, like Amari Thomas or Tyler Barron or Octavius Oxendine. I know Oxendine's not as highly rated as some of the other guys, but I still think Jay Hardy is a kind of a must get for Tennessee, or getting back in with BJ Ojolari if you can. But I think getting someone on the line of scrimmage on the defensive side, because you got good offensive linemen committed to you in this class. I think getting a couple of big time defensive linemen, no matter who they are, Amari Thomas, Tyler Barron, if you can get Jay Hardy to come back, Oxendine, Reginald Perry, any of those guys, those are must-haves. I think that's the top one. And also, obviously, getting Darnell Washington would be huge because he's a 5-star tight end who, big-time player. He is a legit, just really, really good athlete that I think Tennessee would obviously love to have in their offense moving forward. Do you think Octavius Oxendine will commit to us from Mr. Squirrel Squasher? That's a good name. He's interesting. To me, Oxendine and Perry are interesting options. I don't know if Tennessee would take both. Perry's we talked about him on the last RTI and VR2 recruiting podcast. He's actually a guy that can maybe go out the tight end if you need him to. He's 6'7". He's like a Darrell Middleton as far as like height and frame and stuff. But he plays offense. He plays, I think, both defensive line and as a tight end in high school. He's actually been recruited as a tight end at UAB. So, I don't know how high level of a tight end he actually is, but he is a legit athlete who is got a really good measurables, is really good, just like I said, really good athlete, 6'7". That's, Darrell Middleton, 6'7" on Tennessee's roster right now. Last question I'll kind of cover here. Joshua Barnes, what's it mean for Tennessee that Darnell Washington is going to sign early but not announced until the beginning of the year. It doesn't mean anything bad. Tennessee does get his last official visit, which is huge. He came and unofficially visited Tennessee, I want to say for the, what game was that? It wasn't, I don't think it was Vanderbilt. I think it was, I don't remember what game it was now. But he came and unofficially visited, which anytime you get a kid from Las Vegas, out west to come visit unofficially kind of on their own time. I think it was the UAB game. Anytime you get him to do that, to come visit your campus here on, way over the East Coast area in Tennessee, that's huge. I think I've said for a while, I think Tennessee is in a really good spot for him. I was put on the spot earlier this week in the RTI mailbag on RocketTopInsider.com, and I said, I think Tennessee lands him. Right now, things could definitely change. I'm not guaranteeing anything right now, but with the way things sit, I really like Tennessee's chances with Darnell Washington right now, and him being part of Tennessee's 2020 class. Like I said, that can absolutely change between now and I guess the early signing period and National Signing Day in February and stuff. But right now, I feel pretty good about it. But guys, I'll go ahead and sign off. Tennessee playing Indiana in the TaxSlayer Bowl, not the Music City Bowl, not Tennessee and Louisville in the Music City Bowl. We got Tennessee and Indiana in the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl on January 2nd, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. I believe it'll be on ESPN, if not ESPN2, one of those channels. It'll be on the ESPN channels. Thank you all so much for tuning into this. And like I said earlier, I apologize for all the confusion, all the stuff that being reported and going with the report from Brett McMurphy. But I do appreciate all of you tuning in. And if you give this video a like, that'd be great. If you could subscribe to the channel, that'd be great. If you want to follow us on all our social media, we're at Rocket Top Insider on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Mr._Rutherford. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode, or this, I guess episode, but this live reaction video. If you're watching this as a replay, thank you so much for that as well. But thank you for all of you who kind of tuned in here live and reacted and commented with me. Appreciate it very much. We'll be back again, I would say, probably after the Memphis Bowl game, the Memphis basketball game on Saturday, December 14th. Win or lose, I'm going to try to do a post-game show for that one, because that is a game I'm very excited about, and I assume a lot of you are too. So thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you probably next weekend.